Another day, another LLM trending. This time it's the GLM 4.6. Inside of Z.AI's profile over at X, they shared an LLM performance evaluation across GLM 4.6, GLM 4.5, DeepSeek, Claude Sonnet 4, and Claude Sonnet 5. Now, I've been really studying these benchmarks because I know people say, but benchmarks doesn't matter. What matters is how you test them and everything. But you have to have some kind of way to measure and compare these models so that we get a sense of what actually works without having to every time test it or wait for a YouTuber to launch a video talking about it. That's even why I built the AIrank.dev, where you can keep up with all the models and how they perform across all the benchmarks focused on building. And what I've noticed that is a reliable benchmark for that is the SWE-bench. But we have SWE-bench verified, we have the agentic coding, agentless, multiple attempts. We have a bunch of different ones. So what I tried doing here is just organizing all of them into one table that can measure all of them together. Now, the GLM 4.6 model is placed at 12th place in this table with an SWE-bench verified of 68%. If we try to compare it with Claude 4.5, for example, it should show, exactly this. So Claude Sonnet is better, but the thing is GLM is really, really cheap. Scrolling down here to the performance metrics, you'll notice that GLM 4.6 almost reaches for the same benchmark scores as Claude 4.5 and actually surpasses it in this one. And that's maybe why they even placed it first here. But enough talking. Let's actually see if this model is worth the try. First of all, these are their pricings. For the first month, you'll pay $3 and then $6 in the following ones. What I noticed they have down here in the facts is they really try to compare it with Claude since it's like the market reference. And you get 120 prompts every 5 hours, which is about 3 times the usage quota for the Claude Pro plan. So that's basically paying nearly 1/4 of the price for 3 times the usage, but for a weaker model. But I mean, it should honestly be fine for most people. In this video, I'll show you how you can install it inside of claude-code, but it also works inside of row-code, kilo-code, Klein, OpenCode, Crush. I didn't even know these other ones existed. So as soon as you purchase it, you'll be sent over to this dashboard where you can configure your API keys. Now, before I do that, let me head over to their documentation. And here they're explaining how you can install it inside of claude-code. But you can check out all these other CLIs as well. As for claude-code, if you still don't have it installed, just open up your terminal and place in that command. Hit enter and it should install it just fine. Now, the rest of the documentation recommends you using this, for example. I just prefer going with this setup along with this one. That's just faster and works for everything, Windows, Linux, and Mac. But don't worry, this will be in the description of the video without my API key for sure. And then you just have to grab this command, open up your terminal. So just cd and then get inside of that Claude folder. Okay, you're just going to paste that in, hit enter. You should now be inside of the Claude folder. Now just type code space dot, and this should open up in your IDE. If you hate doing things inside of the terminal, you can open up this file just fine by going over to your user inside of, so for my case, Macintosh, then users, Leonardo. In here, the folder will be hidden. So just command shift dot. It'll show those hidden folders. Find Claude, click on that folder, and now you'll have access to the settings.json. This is the file that you need to alter. When you open it up at first, it might be just like this. All you really have to do is place a comma, enter, and then place in whatever is in the description of this video. Right in here, you'll replace with your own key. This key, you can get it right over here. So just click to create a new API key, test, confirm. As soon as that's generated, just copy the API key, go back there, hit Command V or Control V, and it will be pasted just fine. You can just save that file and just start using GLM. I'll test it by creating a new project. And inside of the new project, I'll type in Claude dangerously skip permissions. Be careful with this flag. But as soon as you open it up, you should see this right here, GLM 4.6, which means that you configured it correctly. If you want to check it further, just /status, and it'll show you exactly the model that you're using and everything else. And by the way, whenever you want to roll back to the Anthropic models, you can just go back to the settings.json from the Claude folder and delete everything, save it, and you should be fine. But I'll leave that in for now because we'll test GLM by creating somewhat of a news fetcher using Firecrawl. The first thing I'll do here is create an mcp.json. This should be able to instruct the claude-code agent about Firecrawl's MCP. I'll also place this in the description in case you want to use it yourself. My favorite way of building anything with Firecrawl is just heading over to their playground and seeing the actual options they have for search. For example, inside of the search, we have news, we can fetch for images, web, and then after I configure everything, I just click to get code. That code will be all done here. I'll make it build everything in JavaScript, then copy the code, send it over to my agent, and then have it integrate everything in my own app. And I'm doing this example because I've done it so many times with Claude 4.5 that I believe at this point it should be a nice way to compare it with the GLM model. And actually, before I even create this, I had an idea. Let's make this into a Next.js app instead of just a simple node. So all I typed in here was create a Next.js app that uses shadcn components in this folder. And I specify in this folder because I don't want it to create an extra folder and place all the project in there, and then the terminal will always open inside of an outside folder and everything. So yeah, just like specifying that. By the way, while this is building, let me just notice that if you're using this model because you run out of tokens from Claude Code on the $100 plan, then you might need to reevaluate how you're using agents. Maybe you're using just too much MCPs. Maybe you're not getting it the right context, and then it has to browse the internet, fetch for all that context, insert everything in its context window, and then as soon as you know it, you're out of tokens. That might mean that you're not really in control of what is being built. So yeah, just be careful with that. And by the way, this should be .mcp.json. Okay, now it's in the format that Claude can understand. It just got done generating the Next.js app. This should be pretty simple. So let's try to open it. Okay, already we have a bunch of things here like dummy data that it generated, maybe to show us that it actually is using shadcn components. Now let's make the Firecrawl feature of fetching for AI news. This should be a news. So the sources, I'll toggle it as news. I want very recent results. So in the time-based, I'll set it to, yeah, it could be the past week. Let me also limit this to 5, and the rest here is already okay. Now down here, let me toggle summary because I want a summary made of the content so that I can show this inside of my Next.js app. And let's click on start searching. Okay, it's already done. The latest AI news we announced in September. This is from Google, and then Harvard showcases cutting edge AI innovations, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, a bunch of different news related to AI. Now, what I like to do is get the code in JavaScript. Let me click to copy the code, open up my notes, and start actually prompting. Okay, so the only thing I typed in here was build a news fetcher in the main page of this Next.js app. It should fetch for AI news using Firecrawl. When fetched, it should show all the news in nice shadcn cards with the news thumbnail, title, date, summary, etc. This is an example of how to fetch with Firecrawl. Let me paste whatever we copied previously. Let me separate this section. And now, really important, let me click to download this JSON, which was what was responded from Firecrawl. Let me grab that. And this is an example of response from that code. Now, GLM should have the full context of how it should fetch for this result, how that result is retrieved, and then based on that, create the full components that matches everything and should give me a neat news fetcher page. I actually just forgot one thing. If needed, use the Firecrawl MCP to fetch for more context. Only if needed, because I really don't think it will need it. So I just pasted that in. Let's hit enter and see what GLM builds for us. In Claude 4.5, it usually gets this right in the second attempt. But one thing I'm evaluating in this GLM model is how fast it is to produce all this. So this just started at 11:35. As soon as it's done, we'll check the time again to see how long it took. Okay, it just finished at 11:38. Let's run the code. Let me stop that, run it again, refresh, and yeah, it's actually fetching for the latest news without me having to click any buttons. So it's not exactly what I asked for. Let me click to refresh news, see what we get. So this is pretty strange. As soon as I refresh the app, it starts fetching for that news. And then as soon as it's done with that, it finds no news. What I get in here is a success true, but then it brought back no news, a total of 0 news, and an empty array. But what's strange about this is that we're using the same exact code that just got us 5 results. So one thing I like doing is just using the curl request, copying that code, placing it over in my terminal. And as soon as I get a response, which is the correct response, I copy not everything, just a part of it, and send it back to the LLM. So I'll paste that in along with 3 dots. Then I'll get the response we got in our app and specify. That's the response I got from curl testing it manually, but the app gets, this, using what seems to be the same request. Please fix that. Test the route until it's fixed. Now, be careful when you instruct an agent to do something until it's done, because depending on what it is, it could waste up all your tokens. Okay, I see the issue. The API route is returning an empty array because it's not properly extracting the news data from the Firecrawl response structure. And sending the curl really helps it understand what is the actual response structure. Maybe sending this JSON isn't really the best option. Having it test the API route is a pretty nice test as well to the model. By the way, if you wondered about using this kind of same logic to make an Llama or any other model work inside of Claude Code, it won't work for most models because Anthropic's API expects a specific schema that the GLM models apparently have. Okay, it's done. Let's check to see if it was successful. Let me refresh the page, wait for some seconds, and yeah, by the way, these skeletons, perfect. I didn't even instruct it to build these skeletons, and it managed to understand it would be cool to place those. Okay, all the news fetched correctly, everything structured pretty nice. I don't like these images though, but it seems nice. The links are working fine. A pretty basic test of using a third-party API. But if you have other test cases and you want to share it down below in the comment section, please feel free to do that. In my opinion, this seems to be a perfectly good model if you want to spend less while building these systems. That is it for today. Remember to leave a like if this video helped you at all and consider subscribing for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then.